Blimey! Wow. So yeah.
So I'm on here for the day, but yeah, I need to let him in. So anyway, hello, other folk who are joining us. Welcome along. I'm just going to get up and close this door because otherwise you might get lots of background noise. Bear with me a second. Apologies for that. So as I was just saying to Alex, who joined us first, I do apologise for any background noise today. I'm actually, in inverted commas, camping out in my late mother's house. I've had to come here today to let a builder in, and there's a bit of banging downstairs. So I hope it won't affect us, but I apologise if it does. Hopefully my PowerPoint title slide is sharing, and if it is, you can see the GISC code on there. If you can't see the slide, or if you can't see the GISC code, either shout up verbally or stick a message in the chat for me. Oh, great. So the GISC code doesn't work. Well, why am I not surprised?
I think it's only for me, Dave, anyway, or for me and maybe sort of, yeah, because I've had an issue since the beginning of the course, because initially it was linked to my student one didn't work, and then I think Sarah's now linked it to the staff one, but for some reason, every time I log on...
Okay. Well, don't worry too much. I will try to add you manually if I possibly can. But I know you're here anyway, so if the worst happens, I should just tell Sarah manually that, yes, you were here. We'll be fine. Don't worry, Monique, not a problem at all. So we'll just give it about another 1.5 to 2 minutes to make sure everyone who can join has joined, and then we'll start. But today's session, for everyone's benefit, but particularly Monique, for your benefit, don't worry about the fact you've got to pop in and out. Today's session is mostly going to be a chance for you to ask me questions and me to answer them about different things to do with digital technologies. You've probably seen on the Blackboard session for today anyway that it's mainly going to be things that you can ask me and a bit of demonstration from me. But as you will see as we go through, there are so many tools at Hallam, I can't possibly hope to demonstrate any of them effectively in the time there is. So I'm going to talk to you more about where to find tools and how to select appropriate ones, and as I say, answer any questions. And I'll probably say all of that again in a couple of minutes because there might be other people joining us before we start. But don't worry about it, Monique, it's not a problem. Okay, so it's 3 minutes past. I will start at 4 minutes past. I can still see a few people joining. And there we are, it is 4 minutes past. Okay, so welcome along, everybody. I apologise if there's any noise in the background today. I hope there won't be. I'm actually at my late mother's house, and I've had to come in today to let a builder in, and I think, I know he's tidying up and about to go, so hopefully it won't disturb us, but I do apologise if there are any sudden loud noises, which I hope there won't be. This session today is going to mostly be a chance for you to ask me questions and me to try to answer questions about the process of what tools there are at Hallam that we can use and how we make sure we're choosing appropriate ones for what we're doing. There will be an element of demonstration in this, but I can't possibly expect to demonstrate all the tools we have, still less to know whether any or all of them are relevant to what you're doing in a 1 hour session. So it won't be a major problem if, like Monique's already told me, you have to pop out for some reason during the session. And besides which, it will be recorded, and I will start the recording in a few seconds anyway. However, the only bit I'll record, as we discussed in earlier sessions, is where I'm actually showing you things, demonstrating things. When it's a question of you asking questions and so on, I'll stop the recording at that point. Before I do start the recording, can I just ask, have people found the little 10-minute summaries I've done of sessions to be useful? You can either tell me verbally, you can stick a thumbs up emoji on, or you can stick something in the chat. Unless you tell me that they're not useful, I will carry on making them. Okay, I'm seeing a few thumbs up emojis and someone's typing. So unless the typing that's going on is someone saying, no, they're really not useful, stop doing it. Ah, right, okay. So Paul has learned something recently, possibly even in this session, I don't know, and that's fine. Don't worry, Elizabeth, that's not a problem. It's not a check of whether you're using them, it's just that I want to know if they're still useful to people. That's absolutely fine. Okay, well, I'm going to start the recording now. So here we go. Right, recording is now started. So welcome along to our 4th session out of 5 on digital technologies. The GISC code, by the way, for anyone who hasn't heard me say it or seen it already, is on the slide, and it's also on the next slide, so it'll be on the screen for a little while. So we're going to look at just some of the digital teaching and learning tools that we have at SHU. I can't possibly hope to cover them all in one session, excuse me, and even if I could, that wouldn't be productive because I don't know which ones are most suitable to each of you. So the main benefit that I hope you'll gain from today's session is that I'm going to signpost you to and show you how to get help with some of the main places that you can actually look through our catalogue, if you like, of tools and see what is available for you to get your hands on a self-service basis, which is 99% of the tools we've got. And hopefully I'll also cover a little bit about what to do if what you need isn't there and you need to ask for something more specific. So we have, as I'm sure you all know, Microsoft Office. And as part of Office, we've got all the things like Copilot and Office Online, Teams, obviously, and all these things. I think you could easily be forgiven for thinking that the university is trying to push you to use Microsoft Office for everything you can, including teaching. And quite frankly, and I would say this is off the record, but it's been recorded, so it obviously isn't off the record. Quite frankly, I think the same. I think we are being pushed more and more to try to use Teams. But don't forget that although the university is providing Teams and all of the Microsoft products, and I think there is a significant, at the very least, shall we say, an incentive for us to use them, don't forget they're not the only tools we've got. And for all of you teaching at any time, but particularly while you're trying to address K4 for your assessment in this module, don't forget that the key thing is that you're using tools which are appropriate and which are adding some kind of value. They're enhancing your teaching and learning. And if Teams or another Microsoft product does that, and often it can, there's lots of wonderful things in Microsoft, in my opinion, more wonderful things that are not part of Teams than those that are part of Teams. If they're there, that's great. Use them, please do. But if it's not appropriate for what you're doing, or if it isn't enhancing it, then don't use it. And there are lots and lots of other things, as I'll show you in a second. And just because we're forever being told about a wonderful new feature they've turned on in Teams or a wonderful new thing that Microsoft added, that doesn't mean to say we can't use other things as well. So Microsoft Office is obviously likely to be the one that every single person knows. It's unlikely, I think, you've been in university and not know that we've got that. There's also Blackboard, and I think that comes into the same group of products. It's pretty unlikely that you'd be working at Hallam and not know that we've got Blackboard. Blackboard is often used, however, more like a file repository than like a virtual learning environment. And Blackboard has an awful lot of built-in, absolutely fantastic teaching and learning tools. It also has some things which are probably more appropriate to schools and colleges than the university, and you're free to use them, again, if you find that they are appropriate and that they're enhancing your teaching and learning. But don't feel you've got to use them, even if they're not really appropriate, just because they're there. And we can take questions from you about Blackboard and, for that matter, Office in a little while and see if we can answer particular questions you might have. Or maybe you have other questions where I will say, well, actually, the solution is Office or Blackboard. It may well be that you are a little bit less aware that we all have Google Suite accounts, and so do all of our students. And even if you are aware that we've got them to the university, I've worked here now since 2012. And ever since I first started working here, there's been rumours going around that, oh, we're going to get rid of Google. I've heard Google's going. Is it true? It hasn't gone yet. And although I know the rumours still keep going round, I'm still not aware of any hint officially that we're ever going to get rid of Google. And Google has an awful lot of really useful tools as well. Many of them are very similar to the tools in Microsoft Office, but there's enough subtle difference to mean that sometimes Google will be better than Office or Office better than Google for what you're doing. So don't dismiss it as being something that's either likely to go, you thought it had gone, or, oh, well, it can't be as good as Office. Again, it comes down to selecting the most appropriate tools that are going to enhance the teaching and learning that you're doing. And Google can sometimes do that. In particular, Google offers the opportunity to share things more freely outside of Hallam. So if you're doing research work, or if you're doing work with people who are based on some kind of placement or secondment somewhere and might need their colleagues to access what you're providing, Google can often be more flexible than Office for that. And also Google offers more opportunities to gather information, for example, through forms in an anonymous way, or to let people participate in activity in an anonymous way. So if you're concerned about maintaining anonymity, or if you simply think that your students will be more likely to participate if their contributions are anonymous, Google can be quite an advantage over Office and indeed over Blackboard for those things, because again, it's harder to make things anonymous in Blackboard, and some things in Blackboard simply can't be made anonymous. Some can, but not all. So going on those 5 little icons I've got on the screen, there's your first 3, sort of following a straight line down the screen: Office, Google and Blackboard. And it's fairly unlikely, as I say, that any of you would have been unaware we had them, particularly Office and Blackboard. And when I open this up to questions and discussion later on, do feel free to ask me about anything to do with those. I've put Padlet and alternatives on there as a discrete item. I wouldn't normally have put that on as a discrete item, but as I think we all know, Padlet will cease to be licensed university-wide from April the 2nd. And that's because Padlet have increased their costs something like 50 times higher than last year. It's a massive increase, and it's just not sustainable for the university as we stand at the moment. There are lots of alternatives to Padlet. One of the ones I particularly like, as you would have known from last week if you were here, or if you looked at the recording and so on, is Miro. But as we also discovered last week trying to use Miro, it isn't quite as intuitive as Padlet. It does offer a lot of different things that Padlet doesn't do, and in some circumstances, it might always have been the better choice rather than Padlet. And some of you may have used Miro for very particular things that it is really excellent at in the past. So Miro is free. Setting up a Miro education account, which is free, is a little bit tricky because it offers you the chance to join what it refers to as Teams, nothing to do with Microsoft Teams. And it usually puts up things that it thinks you might be interested in. And because we all have Hallam email addresses that have got SHU in them, it tends to flag up to almost everybody a team on there that's called SHU. It is to do with the university. Someone at the university set it up. Don't know who. Unfortunately, it's a team that's run via another free account, like the ones that you might set up yourself. And you are limited to how many people can join a free team. And of course, this SHU one has been offered to so many people over the years who've all thought, oh, that must be an official SHU one, and joined it, that now what happens is as soon as you try to join that team, it says you've now reached your maximum limit. You can't do anything else with this. You've exceeded your free account. So if you are new to Miro and you've never used it before, and you fancy signing to a free education account, please do so. Feel free to come to the digital learning drop-in or to get one of the digital learning technologists to help you work through the process if you wish. But whatever you do, if it offers you the chance to join the SHU team, or if you see the SHU team advertised, please don't join it, because it's not anything exciting or wonderful. It's just somebody else at SHU on their personal account. It's absolutely legitimate and fine, but it's now been joined too often and it will effectively block your account. And that's one of the ways in which Miro, sadly, is a little less intuitive than Padlet, which doesn't do any such thing. But this isn't a session specifically on Padlet and Miro, so I won't go down that particular rabbit hole further right now. But there's plenty of help for you if you want to look at Miro. There are things that people can do in Padlet that can also be done very well in Office or Google Suite or Blackboard and in many other free products out there. Another alternative to Padlet is something called Answer Garden. We probably won't have time to look at it in today's session, but if we do have time, I'll show you. Answer Garden is particularly good where you want to get anonymous contributions to short, quick, snappy questions. So, how much do you know about digital learning at Sheffield Hallam? Please answer with either nothing, not much, everything. Answer Garden's a great tool for gathering that kind of snappy response. in an anonymous way. It can produce some really fantastic word clouds. I know word clouds are very, very trendy a decade or so ago, and everyone was doing them. They're still very useful for some things. And it does format them in a way that makes it instantly possible to see which responses are the most frequent or the most popular. It can be useful for that. And it does a few other things as well. But it does nothing like as many things as either Padlet or Miro. So it's an alternative, it's free, it's very easy to use, it's very intuitive for us and the students, but it's more limited than Padlet or Miro. And I think that's a good point to move to the elephant in the room, the one other tile on the screen I'm showing you now, which is in bold and I haven't yet looked at it, and that's the Apps Anywhere tool. So Apps Anywhere is Hallam's, if you like, library of all the licensed software and tools that we have. Now, some of them are licensed for very specific departments or very specific users, and you have to have an email address at Hallam which quite clearly shows our systems that you belong to one of those departments or teams before it will let you on. And many other things are available to absolutely everybody across the university. So there's many that you can use straight away. And we will look at the Apps Anywhere interface and the help support screen to that in just a second. I mentioned at that point because moving on from Padlet, Miro and Answer Garden seemed like a good time to introduce the fact that there's loads of other tools that can both do the things Padlet does, the things that parts of Office, Google Suite, Blackboard do, and many, many other, often more specialised things besides that are licensed. And one of the most common questions that we get asked as tutors on your PG Cert course, and even more common for people in the digital learning team, which as you know I work in, is, well, where do I find out what tools we've got? And Apps Anywhere is your quickest answer to that. But before we look at that, let's just revisit the question about why we might use digital tools. And I've done this to death with you, I think, in the previous 3 sessions, so I won't labour the point. But please just remember what I mentioned earlier on in this session, when I was talking about Office and so on. There needs to be a rationale. It needs to be something that you can see is going to help you to teach, help your learners to learn, preferably both of those things. And it needs to be a tool that's appropriate to what you're teaching, and to a large extent also to what your learners are learning about and will go on to do in their next phase of learning or in their careers. So, you know, I've just said Answer Garden's a brilliant tool for doing this, that and the other. It is. That doesn't mean that tomorrow you should all be using Answer Garden, because it will be totally inappropriate and there will be no rationale whatever to suggest it's a good tool to use for a great many of you in whatever you teach tomorrow. But it's something to remember that we have and put in your little toolkit. So I think bear that in mind as I go into the remaining part of what I'm going to tell you and demonstrate to you, and bear it in mind in the future as well. But don't go away thinking, hey, great, Dave's shown me that we've got 51,000 tools or whatever it is. I haven't a clue what the number is. I must make it my job to use all of them. Don't do that. That's not right. Remember, there's always got to be a rationale, and most especially so to show that you're addressing K4 correctly in this module. Okay, so on that topic of rationales, here are some things that came from some pretty old information now. Actually, the Scottish Government almost 11 years ago, and Bector, frighteningly, 19 years ago. But what's significant about these phrases that came out of those two sources 1 and 2 decades ago, roughly, is that these are still the key phrases that come from the government, that come from people like the AGA, that come from endless different experts on teaching and learning enhancement. And these are the sort of things that might actually be in your rationale for choosing and using a tool. So things around increasing students' chances of success, raising attainment, reducing inequalities, promoting inclusion, and so on. All those things are to do with increasing each student's chances of being successful in their studies and their learning and acquiring their grades and their knowledge and their qualifications. And also employment, things to do with employability, enhancing students' chances of success in the future, not just right now on the course or on this minute or the module they're doing today. And then about helping you as well, helping you to be well, I've put improving efficacy, so helping you to be more efficient. That's true, but actually helping you to get more enjoyment out of your teaching, helping you to try and do a variety of different things might be a more appropriate phrase to put in there, and helping you to get better engagement from your students, which always makes our lives as teachers easier, more pleasant, more fulfilling, more rewarding, as well as probably circling back to those first 3 points. So I'm just going to stop sharing the slides, and with a bit of luck, and I'm only working off one screen today, which for me is quite a novelty, I'm going to try and share the Apps Anywhere tab if I possibly can. Okay, now I've lost sight of chat because I'm only on one screen. So if I'm not currently showing you the Hallam Apps Anywhere help page, please can someone unmute and shout up, because I can't now see the chat to see whether it's working. But if I hear nothing, I will assume that I'm sharing. I am. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you. That's great. So on the Hallam LTA website, and if you're not used to using the LTA website, this is what the top of it looks like. And you can get it simply by going to staff.shu.ac.uk or logging onto any web browser in the university. It will take you there automatically. And across the top of the screen where the index is, you'll find the LTA website. Or you can just type into the search bar using the search Apps Anywhere, and you'll get the basic guidance to Apps Anywhere. If you've used Apps Anywhere before, you don't need this, you know what you're doing. But if it's totally new to you, this is a useful way to get into it. It has the direct link to the actual Apps Anywhere page, but it also points out to you that if you're not using a Hallam computer, you will need to turn on the VPN. And if you're off campus, you'll also need to turn on the VPN in order to get most of the functionality out of it. Now, I have to say, I'm not on the VPN today. So when I do show you Apps Anywhere in a few seconds, I'll be able to show you the catalogue of all the tools, but most of them will say unavailable on my screen share because I'm not connected to the VPN. And if you go into it and see what I'm going to share in a second, lots of not availables, that's the first thing to check. Are you connected to the VPN, or are you on Hallam campus? So you do have to sign into Apps Anywhere. If you're on the Hallam campus, it should sign you in automatically because you've already logged on once to a Hallam computer to be using the computer. If you're using your own device or you're off campus and you haven't yet signed into something like Blackboard, it will ask you to sign in. And it's just your normal username and passwords, nothing special about it. It does work on a Mac. They've got a note on here which is slightly misleading. It says, Mac users, please note, it only works in the Windows environment and you need to have Windows installed. That's not actually true. You don't need to have Windows installed at all. I'm on a Mac right now and I've used a Mac forever, and Apps Anywhere works fine. However, what I won't guarantee is that there aren't some things in Apps Anywhere that might not function quite properly if it hasn't got a Windows tool to run on. But as any one of you who does use a Mac will probably be able to see that whoever wrote this paragraph wrote it, I don't know how long ago, 15 or more years ago, because it talks about using a tool called Parallels. And if you're a Mac user, you'll be well aware that that's pretty much outmoded now and hardly ever used. So if you are a Mac user, don't worry about that paragraph, don't be put off. Okay, so that's enough about that. All I really need to show you that slide for is so that you can see this is where I get the help on it. Here's some useful reminders. Here's the direct link to go into Apps Anywhere. And so what you should now be able to see, I just want me to log in again because I logged in hours and hours and hours ago. Let's hope that it will do it. Hope that it does it correctly. Yes, there we go. So when you first log into Apps Anywhere, you get that little pop-up validating like I just did then, because I've been logged out, I've been on it for too long. And you'll see that straight away you get a search bar, you can search for the apps. You get a few things that it's suggesting you might like. I don't know how it works out what it might want to suggest to you, because none of these are relevant to anything that I teach. So perhaps it just puts up random ones, I don't know. If you've used it before, you can click on recent and it will show you the things you've recently been into. And you can store things as favourites, which I haven't currently done. But if there are things that you want to use regularly or think, oh, I'd like to come back and explore that, you can mark them as favourite and they'll come in your favourites menu. But by and large, you either want to type in some keywords of what you want it to do. So, for example, graphic design, network mapping, whatever it might be, or simply click View All Apps. And viewing all apps gives you the entire catalogue of all the apps that we have available at Hallam. They are listed alphanumerically, so you will first of all get the ones with numbers at the beginning of the name, then you get the ones with A and so on. And I'm not going to try and show you everything by any means. In fact, I'm probably not going to show any specific ones, but you can look at this yourself anytime you like. But you'll see we've got things to do with CAD/CAM, we've got things that are PDF editors, we've got Adobe Acrobat suites. There's things that are specific to maths and equations and so on. There are things to do with music, creativity things, and you get the idea without me showing you everything, I'm sure, of how many things there are. And when you think you get to the bottom, you've got load more apps, and it carries on and on and on right the way through to Z. So you can imagine the scale, but I'm going to let you explore that at your own will. And as I say, it says unavailable on all of these to me at the moment, and that's because I'm not using the VPN at the moment. So that's where we can find apps anywhere and learn about the different things we've got. So what I'm going to do at that point is I'm going to return to my Teams screen and my PowerPoint slides. I'm going to stop the recording because I know that can sometimes inhibit people's discussion. And at that point, I'm going to open it up to you, and you can ask me anything you like to do with how to find the apps you want on Apps Anywhere, or how to use a particular app. You can ask me about the business of choosing things that are appropriate again. You can ask me questions about Padlet, Teams, Office, whatever. And we will discuss this as we go through the rest of the session. It would also be really useful if any of you got any tips on good practice that you would like to share with your colleagues through this session as well. So bear with me a second while I stop the recording. And that's now stopped. So feel free to dive in with verbal questions, questions in the chat, hints, tips, experiences you've had, preferably good ones, but don't be afraid of sharing bad ones too if you want to sort of say, well, I tried to do this and it didn't work, what do you advise, etc. But over to you now, and feel free to speak. The recording has stopped.
I've got one of the latter where I tried a tool and it was a disaster.
Okay.
So I did Microsoft Whiteboard, and I'd gone with like a template where you could put where the post-it notes were already set up for you. And asked them to like populate them, and it was the apprentices, so they're pretty engaged actually. They all turn up pretty much, give or take, and let you know if they're not coming. But so a lot of them were sat there doing it very well, but there was someone who seemed to accidentally make the post-it note bigger, and then I think that it just all went from there basically. I don't think they meant to, but the post-it note was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then we were all laughing. It was on the screen and you couldn't see anything else, and I was like, okay, just delete that post-it note. And I managed to delete like the whole screen, all of the work that everyone had done, and I was just like, oh my god, like we just had a laugh about it really, but it was a disaster in terms of learning. I'm apprehensive to try that again. Is there another Padlet? Well, I think you've said about Miro, but like what's
Well, if your main thing you're trying to do is to use post-it note type things on the screen, then Miro and Padlet are certainly the first two things I would mention instantly. In both cases, it's a lot easier to manage or preset limitations on what people can do in terms of resizing post-it notes, the way they can be posted, where they can be moved around the screen to overlap other people's and so on. So yeah, my first tip there would be either go back to Padlet. Don't forget that we can use, in fact, now I've stopped the recording, I'll talk a little bit more about Padlet in a second, but we can still use free Padlet accounts. And there are other ways that potentially you can get a limited Padlet license for your department. So I'll come back to that in a tick. But yeah, Padlet and Miro are the first two things that always come to my mind for post-its. And quite frankly, Office Whiteboard wouldn't come to my mind for post-its at all. Not saying that you're wrong in any way, you're not. And lots of my colleagues keep saying, well, use Office Whiteboard, it's fine. But frankly, I hate it. I find it incredibly difficult to manage, which is clearly the experience that you've had. And I've tried to use it many, many times as well, and I still don't find it any easy to manage. And I don't find that the students find it very intuitive either. So you said you were apprentices and they were kind of pretty switched on, pretty engaged, etc. So they were probably doing quite well. If you've got students who are less engaged, I find personally that it's even harder to use. That doesn't mean that either you or anyone else in this session now should think, oh crikey, I'm going to completely avoid Microsoft Whiteboard. It sounds like a nightmare. If you want to try it, please try it. Nothing wrong with trying it. It's absolutely fine. But it isn't the tool that I would choose to Post-its, because I just think it makes hard work out of something that Padlet and Miro do so easily.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure that's necessarily answered your question, but I hope it's gone part way towards it. Whatever you do, don't let it put you off trying other tools. Just because one tool, and this is kind of a general message for anybody in the session really, if you try one tool and it doesn't do what you want it to, or your students don't like it, or you can't get on with it, don't let it put you off trying other tools in the future.
I'll have a look at this Miro. I did get an account, but you've got to spend some time really, and you just to get used to it, to anything. Okay. I blooming love Slido, by the way. Is there somewhere we can campaign to get the paid version? Like, it's so good.
It is a good tool. It's lovely. It's a bit like Poll Everywhere, and I'm trying to think what the other one is that a lot of people use, and I've used it and I've already forgotten what it's called. There's three tools in the same category as Slido. They don't all do the same job, but they're very, very popular. People do love them. People are using them. We've been asking for years to get the institutional licenses, and there's never been a convincing business case that's convinced senior leadership that we should spend that amount of money on it. And given the current circumstances, I wouldn't say stop campaigning, but I doubt very much that we're going to get more success at the moment than we've had for the last 4 or 5 years that people have been asking in the current circumstances. So I think the answer to those is to keep with the free versions for now. Yes, it's annoying that you get the limitations, and some tools, the free versions give you adverts as well, things like that. It's annoying, I know it is, but I think at the moment that's the realistic answer. I'm just looking, there's a couple of things in chat and one more being typed, so I'll just go to those for a second. So we've got a message regarding calculations of students practicing in class and what digital tools for that. So Afolasade, what do you mean when you say students have to practice in class? Do you mean they've got to practice carrying out calculations, or they've got to be able to produce them on the screen so they look authentic, or is it both?
So they need to practice. They need to practice in class, and they also need to use Excel to do some of the calculations. So I wasn't too sure which tool to use.
Well, I don't know what subject area you are, and more to the point, I don't know.
Valuation.
Sorry?
Real estate valuation. Real estate valuation.
Oh, real estate. Okay, right. So I don't know what industry standard tools are used in your profession, I'm afraid. It's not my area of expertise, but certainly Excel is the first thing I would go to. As soon as I saw your question there, the first thing I thought is, well, if it's calculations, Excel. Now, if Excel is something that is not used widely in the industry for real estate, then it might be worth you considering other tools so that you're making a more faithful representation of what your students will go on to use post-university when they're in their careers. But if Excel is used in that career industry, or if there's no particular favoured tool, I would go for Excel, because actually if people can learn how to set up calculations and formulae in Excel, that's a really good transferable skill that can apply to so many different aspects of life and can be very powerful for them. So that would be the first suggestion I'd make.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We've also got a comment from Louise. That's fine that you can't use a camera and microphone. Don't worry, Louise, that's not a problem. But I see that you're using Google to set up appointment slots. Any other tools you can use for that? Yes, Microsoft. Well, two things come to mind, actually. Poll Everywhere offers a brilliant meeting scheduling service, although they have made it harder to use unless you get the paid version than it used to be. But Microsoft has a built-in tool called, I think it's called Meet with Me, or Meet Me, and you can add it to your Outlook calendar. When you log on to Office 365 or go into the Teams homepage, if you click the apps icon or the apps link on the left-hand side, one of the multitude of apps that Microsoft now offers you is this Meet Me or Meet with Me tool. And it only takes a few seconds for you to tell it what your normal working pattern is in terms of days and hours each day. And it will then offer link that you can put at the bottom of your email signature. In fact, I think he puts it on automatically, actually. And anyone who clicks that link will be able to book in a meeting with you at times that they can see that you're free. Or, well, actually, no, they can't see that you're free because they don't see your diary. It simply tells them what times are free in your diary. It doesn't tell them anything else about it. Now, that's fine if you don't mind people meeting you at any time that your diary hasn't got something else in it. But if you only want to offer, for example, meetings on a Wednesday afternoon between 1 and 5, that probably isn't the best tool. You could set that up on it, but it'd take a lot more setting up than just letting it have free reign of your diary. So at that point, I might be more inclined to go back to something like Poll Everywhere, where you simply say, these are the slots I'm available. You know, so it might say Wednesday the 11th, I can do 12 till 12:25, 12:25 till 12:50, 1 till 1:25, and so on. You can put in specific slots that way. So I hope that's a starting point for you, Louise. There are other tools as well, but they'd be the things I'd suggest first of all. Google Appointments that you're already trying. If you find it clunky, that's fine. Microsoft Meet Me or Meet with Me, and Poll Everywhere if you want to offer a more limited range of options. If none of those work for you, feel free to come to Digital Learning Drop-In and we can talk through some others, but they're the first three I'd suggest. Mevlan, you've given us a question. You haven't been able to use the whiteboard for group tasks. Okay. It sounds from what you've typed as though you did the right things. So I don't actually know why it didn't work. And unfortunately, the best I can suggest for that answer, Mevlan, is that you come to Digital Learning Drop-In and we can go through with you what you've done. If needs be, we can even test it with one of us masquerading as a student and using a fake student account, and we can see if we can work out why it didn't work. But to be quite honest, from what you've typed in there, it sounds more like a student error with students not accessing it properly, but I don't know that. It's just a guess because I can't see anything obviously wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I created the QR code at home on my computer, and then I tried that QR code on the classroom. For example, I did access them, but when it comes to the students, they can't. We tried several times, and then all the time we failed.
Right. Okay. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one, I'm afraid. But we can investigate it for a Digital Learning Drop-In. But there's nothing obvious in what you've typed or said that stands out as, oh, that's why it went wrong. So we'd need to investigate.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
No problem. So any more thoughts, tips, suggestions, questions, worries, concerns? Out of interest, are there any people here who have used Apps Anywhere before? Oh, sorry, someone was just going to ask something then.
Yes, Dave, can you explain to me how you did that you shared the slides and I could eventually run through them and back and sync with you? Have no clue how to do that. Thank you.
Yes, so if you're in PowerPoint, and I'm talking here about using PowerPoint as the fully installed app rather than PowerPoint on Office 365 on the web, you can share slides from PowerPoint and you can share them to upload to OneDrive, and that's your first step. Get them onto OneDrive. Once you're onto OneDrive, you can then present them through Teams. And I'm just going to try to share my, can I make it share the screen I want? Let me just, how am I going to do this with one screen only? Bear with me. There must be a way of doing it. Yes, there is. If I share the whole window and then click into PowerPoint, hopefully you're now seeing my slide deck in PowerPoint itself. And at the top you can see there's a share button in red. So the first thing I did was to go to share and the option for upload to OneDrive. And having done that, I then have a button that says present in Teams. And when I click on that button, I can present it in Teams. Now, there is a second way of doing this, which I have not used before, but I'm just going to see if I can. Oh, I can't show you because I am sharing. Okay, so where it says share in Teams, and at the moment, hopefully you can see on my screen, it says stop sharing because I've got you in the meeting here. When I'm not actually sharing already, there's an option in there, and that option says PowerPoint Live. Is there any way I can get a screenshot of this to show you? Just bear with me a second. Let's see if I can take a screenshot of it. I might be able to share that on the screen. Let's try it this way. New from clipboard. Let's try that. Hang on a second. Right, bear with me. Share again. Share entire window. Is that sharing a screenshot with you that says share content sitting over the top of all of your pictures in this meeting?
No.
No bother. Right. Okay.
No.
Let's see what I can do.
And in the meantime, can someone else in the meeting do the same and sharing?
Is that sharing with you now? Sorry, I did hear your question.
Yes,
I'll come back.
it is.
Right, okay. So I've taken a screenshot. So when you're in Teams, where it says share, or in my case where I'm circling the mouse around stop sharing now, when you're not already sharing, but you click the share option, you get screen window or tab, Microsoft Whiteboard, and you also get a PowerPoint Live. And slide shows that you've already got on OneDrive. It's only ones that are on OneDrive that will show here, but they will show in this list. And in fact, the one I was using today is off the bottom of this list, unfortunately, because it's alphabetical. But you can see there's a scroll bar, and that's how you can get to it from within Teams as well. So there's two ways to answer your question. One is from within PowerPoint, the actual app, and it's the button that says Present in Teams. And the other way is when you're in Teams, if it's already uploaded to OneDrive, you can use PowerPoint Live. Okay, so hopefully that's answered the first part of your question. Then the second thing you said was, can anybody else get hold of it and share? So were you meaning that if you're already presenting a session and someone else tries to share their slides, it will take over? Was that what you were getting at?
No, it's just I believe if someone else wants to share their own document to show us, if it's like not to students maybe, but in a collective meeting with colleagues, if they want to share in the same manner, they can. I'm assuming.
Yes, whoever sets up the meeting, so whoever schedules the Teams meeting that you're talking about, has some options when they're scheduling it. And by default, if you're setting up a meeting and inviting staff to it, then all staff members will have rights to share screen and to turn on and off their camera and microphone and so on. If you're setting up a meeting with students, then by default they can mute their camera, they can mute their microphone, they can unmute themselves, but they can't share. But you can, at the time you set it up, you can go into the meeting settings and you can change it so that anybody who joins the meeting can share. So quick answer to your question is, yes, if it's staff, it's already there, you can do it. If it's students, you just need to look at the meeting settings and turn on that option.
Very good. I can teach some people now how to do it.
Excellent. Okay. And again, if you get stuck,
Can't wait.
digital learning drop in and we can help you. But that's the quick answer to your question. So I'm glad to see Alex is saying that PowerPoint Live is a game changer. So that's brilliant. And he's recommending that to other people. So I'm glad that's worked for Alex. Well done. Anyone else with any similar tips or recommendations or, hey, it's worked for me experiences?
Yeah, Dave, if it's all right, I was just going to say with the PowerPoint Live, it's the same. You just got to remember to click the sound on. You know, so if you show any videos or anything in your lectures, just at the very start, you just got to press a button on the top right, and then it turns it from off to on. And then it's really good because if you embed the video in and you click it on the slide, it just automatically plays it, and then they'll see it on their slide come up. So it's and you know, I remember I used to dread the online teaching because you kind of got to be in control of the slides and trying the virtual room, but it keeps it all in one place, if that makes sense. And you've got like a motherboard, haven't you, with you can see people's faces. I don't know how they managed to get it all on, so you can see some faces on, you can see your slide, the next slide, and as well as the chat. It just took so much stress off online teaching.
Yes, yeah, it is a useful tool. And my personal opinion, but this is not sort of official advice, this is just my own experience of what I do. normally, if I'm teaching online, I'm at home using my two 27-inch screens, which I need really for most of what I do on a day-to-day basis to be able to see properly, because my eyesight isn't as good as it once was. But when I'm using two big monitors, I'm happy to present in Teams without using PowerPoint Live, because I can stick the meeting on one screen, the PowerPoint on the other. I can present in Teams and I can see everything quite clearly. If you're only using one screen, or if you've got small screens or whatever, then I think PowerPoint Live really comes into its own at that point. Because if you're only using one screen to present, it's nigh on impossible to keep your eye on the chat, to keep your eye on who's got their hand up in the meeting. And if you're trying to get any responses from people in a visual manner, whether it's physically, hey, put your hand up on camera if, or looking for emoticons and whatever, and see your PowerPoint slide, it's almost impossible with one screen unless you're using PowerPoint Live. So yeah, completely agree with what you're saying. And in my opinion, it really especially comes into your own if you're working on one screen. Paula, you've got a question.
Yes, please. So can I practice myself running a PowerPoint Live session as if I'm recording, and then see how it works?
Yeah, all you've got to do is to set up a Teams meeting and join it. And obviously, if you haven't told anyone else that it's there, then no one else can join it. So it'll just be you in it, and you can share screens and turn on and off any of the features, including PowerPoint Live, quite happily with just yourself in the session. Yeah.
Excellent. I'll try that first.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. And Alex has kindly put in the chat that he's happy to show people on Friday as well. So if anyone wants to have a demo of PowerPoint Live and actually see what it looks like from the tutor's angle, the presenter's angle, then Alex can obviously show you that on Friday, and he said he's willing to, which is very kind. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. I'm there tomorrow, so I won't be able to make it because I teach on Friday. Oh, but lucky ones who can get you to show it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So are there any more things people want to ask, tell, whatever? I've got one more slide, very, very briefly, looking ahead at what we're doing in the next and last session. But I don't particularly want to make you all just sit here until exactly 4 o'clock if we've run out of things you want to discuss. So, let me know. If you want to say more things, ask more things, plenty of time to do it. If not, I'll go back to my last slide and we'll finish slightly early. No.
Can I just ask, have you shared the GISC number? Do we need to?
I did. I shared
check in.
No, I shared it at the beginning, but not to worry. I can bring it back again. Just bear with me a second, because having just said how wonderful PowerPoint Live was, it was just going really slow for me and not wanting to load up the list of slides. And it's still not showing today's slides. It's going on a real go slow now. Oh, well, never mind. I'll share it the old-fashioned way. Not a problem at all. Right, so presenting Teams. Whoops. What's that doing there? Oh, I think maybe my internet connection has gone a bit slow because something isn't wanting to be very prompt here. Well, isn't that good? We've just been talking about how wonderful the tools are at Hallam, and then I'm having a go slow. Oh, well, we'll get there. Right. Share. Let's do it the really old-fashioned way and do it like this. Okay, so the GISC number should be on your screen now with my mouse going round and round in circles from today's title slide. So it's 362595 for anybody who hadn't yet seen it. And just going to my last slide, which as you can see has got stunningly little on it. March the 11th, so 1 month to go, will be our final session looking at K4 and digital technologies. I'd like you to regard that session really as kind of an assignment clinic or workshop with regard to K4. So in my head, what I would really like, but don't worry if this doesn't fit for you, we will make it fit the stage you're at. But what I would really like would be that by March the 11th, all of you had either got to the stage where you feel totally confident, yes, I've shown the evidence of K4, I'm happy with K4 for my assignment, it's happened in my observation, I've already written the bit this time it's going in, whatever it might be. And you might just have a few little questions about how to finalise, tweak it, or make it just so. But don't worry if actually you're not at that stage by March 11th and you come along saying, help, help, help. Actually, I still don't know how I'm going to evidence this. The key thing about March 11th is that you should come along to that session with questions that are related to making sure you've crossed the T's, dotted the I's of demonstrating K4 in the assignment, so that we can make sure that at the end of that session, nobody is going away still thinking, I really don't know how I'm going to show this. I'm stuck. I'm worried. I don't know how I'm going to make sure I get the K4 ticked off on my assignment. Okay, so that's going to be the focus of the March 11th session. I will put a few other little bits in it as well, just to, so add a little tiny bit of new knowledge, and it will mainly be new knowledge about where I think you go from here. So once you've done this module, you've passed this module, you've got your fellowship, therefore you demonstrated K4, where do you go from here? How do you use that learning and that knowledge you've acquired? But the main focus will be you coming along with questions, which hopefully will be those refining questions. How do I dot the T's, cross the I's? But maybe there'll be the help, panic, I really need help, I just don't know how I'm going to do it, and we will make sure that we help you and that you don't leave us still unsure how to do it. Okay, so 9 minutes to go. You can have 9 minutes of your afternoon back, or you can dive in again with more questions if you have more questions. Totally up to you. What I suggest is that if you feel, no, that's it, I've done all I can today, I've got all I can for this session, that's fine. Thank you for coming. You've got a bit of time back, off you go. If you do want to ask something else, unless you think the whole group needs to hear it, feel free to stay online and ask me when other folk have left. And if you all go, that's fine. As soon as you've all gone, I'll just log off. So it's totally up to you. JISC code again, please. Right, hang on, I've already forgotten it myself. Let me look. The JISC code was, in fact, I'll tell you what, I'll put in the chat, it was 362595. But I'll also paste it into the chat, and then it will sit there for anybody else who needs it. There you go.
Sorry.
Not a problem, don't worry. Absolutely not a problem.
I saw the number on the slide, the first slides, and I was wondering, what does that number mean? Is it a new tool that we need to? And then
No, it's not. No.
Oh God.
Okay. Right. Looks like that's it then. I think everyone's pretty much disappeared. So I shall let you go and I will end the session here. Thanks for coming. See you later.